Debunking the Myth of Learning Styles by Amanda Thompson. Recalling my teacher education courses from college, I remember a huge emphasis on understanding the learning styles of our students. But what are learning styles? It is the idea that people have a specific learning preference and that instruction should be tailored according to that preference in order to enhance learning outcomes. In high school and college, I took learning inventories to figure out if I were a visual, oral, or kinesthetic learner. When I began teaching, our lesson plans had to show how we were appealing to these learning styles within the classroom. Even now, my son's high school counselor had him take a learning inventory to identify his own learning style to help him prepare for college interviews. But does knowing yours or your student's learning style really have a benefit? Let's look at where this myth came from. Learning styles have existed since the 1970s, with over 70 models in existence. There are three main reasons why the idea of teaching by learning styles has caught on to such a great extent. First, it's due to it being related to certain areas of the brain being mapped to specific activities. Secondly, the commercialization of industries around learning styles to sell professional learning to schools. And finally, the publication of studies that have shown a large impact of learning styles on student outcomes. But is this theory true? Do we really have a specific way that we learn best? Do teachers need to tailor their lessons to reach all of the various styles of students? Current neuroscience and cognitive research does not agree. Cooper Tetzel states, "The learning styles approach is a way too simplified conceptualization of a human cognition paired with misguided recommendations. Tailoring instruction as suggested by the learning style approach can potentially have negative consequences for the learner." Other studies have shown the use of learning styles as a teaching approach is not effective. As education scholars Myron Dembo and Keith Howard concluded, learning style instruments have not been shown to be valid and reliable. There is no benefit to matching instruction to the preferred learning style, and there is no evidence that understanding one's learning style improves learning and its related outcomes. Finally, Hook and Farah pose that given the near consensus that neuroscience has not yet proven itself relevant to classroom practice, one would not expect working educators to view neuroscience as important to what they do. So, if not learning styles, then what? Evidence suggests that learning about neuroscience research can help prevent teachers from falling prey to misguided brain-based practices and marketing. Improving dialogue between the two disciplines will enrich research and practice in the field of neuroeducation, ultimately helping to build a better science of learning and the brain. So let's look at some learning theories that do work. According to Carey's How We Learn, the brain has many mechanisms to help us to improve memory and learning. Some of the theories that he talks about in his book are forget to learn, spacing out, incubation, interleaving, perceptual discrimination, and the night shift theory. Let's take a closer look at some of these theories. Forget to learn. This is Bjork's theory of disuse, or as he calls it, forget to learn. The first principle of this theory is that memory is a function of two strengths: storage, or how well something is learned, and retrieval, or how easily it is to recall information. For example, Using music or games in a classroom to reinforce information can help increase both storage strength and retrieval of information. Spacing out, also known as distributed learning, is the theory that people learn at least as much and retain it much longer when they distribute or space out their study time than when they concentrate it. Cramming for an exam may work in the short term, but for long-term retention, it is best to space out study over a period of time. Incubation is where one puts aside a problem to do something different when stuck on a solution. Wallace describes this as being when a type of internal reorganization of the information seems to be going on without the individual being aware of it, or in other words, works on the problem offline. Taking a break after learning a concept and then coming back to it later actually helps you to learn it better without even knowing it. Interleaving is mixing related but distinct material during study. From Kerr and Booth's beanbag experiment, Cornell and Bjork's painting study, as well as Rohrer and Taylor's mixed math study, we can prove that interleaving works. For example, utilizing spiraled or interleaved review in math class can help students learn concepts better and perform better on summative tests than utilizing discrete concept units. Eleanor Gibson, the originator of perceptual discrimination, said, "Perceptual learning is automatic and self-correcting. You're learning without thinking. Learning happens in what Kellerman calls perceptual learning modules, or PLMs, to accelerate acquisition of skills until they become automatic." Examples that use this idea are learning sight words, math facts, or even musical notation. The night shift theory, as coined by Carey, states that sleep has the benefit of sorting through and consolidating what we've just been studying or practicing. Tononi states that the primary function of sleep is to shake off the trivial connections made during the day and separating the signal from the noise. Perhaps if you're struggling with a concept, it truly does help to sleep on it. So, what have we learned? While current research does not support the theory of learning styles, there still are individual differences between learners, just not as conceptualized by the learning styles approach. Carey has given us several research-based theories that we can use to help our students become better at learning, sometimes without even realizing it. Teachers do not need to tailor their lessons to reach every learning style in their class, but instead they can use the presumed enemies of learning: ignorance, distraction, interruption, restlessness, and even quitting to work in their favor to reach all students.